north of the Scandinavian countries, it's over 90%, and as you go towards some of the southern states of Europe, it's a lot lower. Croatia and Italy, only about half of the population, for example. So we already knew that we were working in an environment where things were not always the same. And also, as we've discovered during the visits, attitudes and concerns are not always the same. I was particularly struck by a German lady who looked me in the eye and said to me, "Never again write to me from a Google email account, they're evil. If you write from a Google account, they'll get to know about me, and I don't know what they will be doing with that information." Now, maybe she was rather misguided, and maybe she was a bit unnecessarily concerned, and maybe she was right. And that whole debate about understanding what happens about information and what happens about our digital identity is shifting sand. And although I don't agree with her, I do appreciate her pricking my conscience and making me think I'm not thinking carefully enough about this, and she's helping me to do that. So that's just my own personal experience of having been rather enriched finally, although shocked initially, by the international contracts. I think we really thought there would be largely two main outcomes really from making contact with other projects. One was we might very well find that there were some really good things that we hadn't thought of, or we ought to nick and bring them back and have a go at doing them. And the other one really was to recognise that just by looking at other people's practice, it helps you understand the way you're doing things yourself. And although you might not come back and say what they're doing is what we really need to be taking away and adopting, but actually, by looking at that process, it's helping us understand better what we're doing and reflecting on our own work and putting it in a bigger context. This was a slide I pinched from a NIACE a seminar during the week, which I know a few people were at, so I'll admit to it now and not claim any originality. But it comes from the Office of the National Statistics, and it's about equality of connection. And although all socioeconomic groups in Britain have increased their levels of connectivity over the last, since 2003, very clearly we can see that the percentage of people in unemployed and with low educational qualifications is much lower than those with high educational qualifications and are employed. So whilst there's an increase generally in connectivity, we do also know that that's not equal across the whole of our communities, and that I think is something that Dane was set out to address. Is she here?
Yes.
She's there. Nice to see her. In addition to getting on trains and buses and aeroplanes and going and visiting people, which is great, and I'll come on to that in a moment, we did manage to find other ways of making contact with more people around Europe than we ever met. And the two Eurolink events online, one in 2010, one in 2011, using the free software WordPress and some videos and some images, generated, and I was going to count them up, but I think it's well over 100 different contributions from different parts of the world to some of the key questions. And this was from the autumn's Eurolink, what's your definition of digital inclusion or e-inclusion? And to that question alone, there were 12 responses, I think, weren't there? Which Angelique was had posed. If you haven't looked at this, there's pictures of other people as well, and there's a lot of other answers that came through. But of course, there were the 3 trips. And one of those is the flag of Estonia. and one is of Belgium and one is of Germany, and no prizes for knowing which one round is which. Anybody like to suggest which the top one is? Germany. That's Germany, that's right. I don't know why we chose two countries which ended up having exactly the same colours in their flags, but
strategic laziness.
Probably was, yeah. I trawled through some of the videos that people had made last night in preparation for today, and completely failed to come up with any kind of summary that would have made sense in the 10 minutes that I've got now. So I'm just going
very quickly running out.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to commend them to you because there's an absolute wealth of energy and analysis that volunteers collected while they were on those visits. I actually want to talk about something else, which is, and I will go over this one now, and just come up with my key point at the end so that I don't run over my time. I think people within the project will be aware of the experience of having gone and what was brought back. I just want to remind you that the DANE project has been two-way in terms of information. And I never contact Jutta Kroll in Berlin without her saying to me, Dane, that was a good project, how's it going? Never talk, I constantly get emails from Klaus in Schlern, some of you may have met him up in Wagen. When can I have the Dane materials? I want to adopt the Dane model up here in Mecklenburg. Frank Mionel in Belgium, whenever he contacts it, Dane was a great experience for us. It really moved us on. So I'll leave you to absorb the benefits of the visits that Dane was involved in, but I just want to remind you that your effect is broader than these Midlands. Thank you.